On this episode of the 1% Podcast, we are excited to have Joel and Vicky Tague joining us today. Joel and Vicky are going to be talking in our 1% Family series, talking about what they have done through a non-traditional family setting with blending a family and still creating a happy family and a positive situation in their own home. Joel and Vicky are two amazing people and have raised 6 amazing kids. Joel is an attorney here in Boise, and Vicky is a real estate agent who is recently gone back to school and about to graduate with her bachelor's degree as well. And so we want to talk to them about the role of education, family, their careers, their faith, and all the things that they've blended together to be able to create a 1% family.
Even if it doesn't seem like it, it's going to be all right. Over the years is how we view these kids. Is they may be senior to us, maybe not in years, but in experience and in thought and in intellect and such, and we need to be aware of that.
They leave someday. They grow up and move out of your house someday, and you're left as a couple, and that's the most important relationship. So I wanted to give that advice: is nurture your marriage.
Yeah.
It is the most important relationship.
Well, today on the 1% Podcast, we are excited to welcome Joel and Vicky Tague. Joel and Vicky are longtime friends of mine. We have a deep family connection, and they're two people that I look up to a lot as far as not only individuals, but as parents and as friends, and the impact that you guys have had on so many people's lives, not the least of which being mine. So I am very excited to have you guys here today. I'm excited for our audience to get to hear from you guys. So
Great.
appreciate you guys being here. I always like to start with giving people an opportunity to kind of give their background a little bit and kind of talk about you and who you are and where you grew up, family circumstances, those kind of things. So maybe Joel, will start with you. Just maybe talk about your family of origin a little bit, mom, dad, siblings, where you grew up at, how you grew up, what your dad did, what just kind of like your formative years growing up looked like.
Sure, I'll be happy to. So I'm a Nampa native, born and raised in Nampa. Go Bulldogs. I lived, as you may know, I lived in a house out on a farm that was far from everybody, 5 miles south of Nampa. And when I was in second grade, some people moved in, built a house, which were your grandmother and grandfather, Ken and Linda Wheeler. And so I got to know your dad and aunts and uncle and uncles, I guess. Yeah, so deep history there, kind of on a small farm, and so grew up hunting and fishing and doing all kinds of stuff out in rural Nampa that probably shouldn't have been doing, but it was a fun time. I had 3 sisters, no brothers. I was the oldest of the family. And yeah, it was fun. One of my favorite stories I like to tell is I went to Greenhurst School for my first grade. And in first grade, in that little old Greenhurst school, we had 8 grades that were taught there, 4 in one room and 4 in the other room, and you lined up by your grade. And so I sat in with second graders, third graders, and fourth graders. They were just in different rows than me. So, it was like Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah,
some way.
Well, and you coined it to me one time where you said, I grew up so far out in the country that we didn't even get to pick who our friends were. They were kind of picked for you based on who lived near you.
And that's exactly true. One of my friends is actually in prison now. Again, I had no choice in picking this friend. He just lived nearby, and the other was your dad. I mean, and that was it. Those were my 2 friends that I had growing up. I drove by that little farmhouse just this past week, and was just shocked. It's probably been a couple of years since I've been out there past the old farm where I grew up, but it's amazing how it's just Nampa's continued to grow.
Yeah.
I graduated, as I said, from Nampa High School barely. served a mission in southern Germany. Been fortunate enough to go back many times.
Have you held on to your German over these
I
years?
think so.
Okay.
He's better than he thinks.
Yeah.
When I get in country, I'll flip the news on and listen to it for a day or so, and it just kind of brings the vocabulary back.
Yeah.
I'm not as good as some, probably better than others, but I am only okay with it, I would say.
So you became fluent in German. You grew a love for Porsches and German vehicles.
Vehicles, BMWs, anything that was out of Germany. I don't think I haven't had a Volkswagen, but I've had Porsches and BMWs and Audis and Mercedes. And we have had a Mercedes. So yeah, I loved that. Came back, went to school, Arizona State. I did my undergrad in finance and MBA right after that, and went to work for HP and was with HP as a financial analyst, and then a marketing. We called it marketing. It was really more like product development for 21 years. And during that time, I got married, had 3 kids before I left HP. 3 kids, and great kids, 2 daughters and a son, and ended up divorcing their mom shortly after. Started with HP, met Vicky after that. We got married, had 3 more kids of our own. The kids, one at a time for the most part, began living exclusively with us. Gentry, my youngest from my first marriage, was about half-time, and we moved over close to where her mom lived, just so that she didn't have to make a choice. Yeah, it's like you want to live, you don't have to choose between schools and church, and you just go the same place. And so that was a really good thing for her, I think. And I worked for HP until the kids were the older kids were the little kids.
Yeah, they're definitely not little. They were little once upon a time.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's this, yeah.
One of our little boys, Carter, is 6'6" and 230 pounds, and he goes, "Dad, I'm not a little boy." I go, "You'll always be a little boy." So,
in this family, you're a little boy.
That's right. It has to do with age, maybe more than stature. But,
so as the 3 big kids were in college or had left home.
Yeah, then we were, I thought I got to do something different. HP had gone from being perhaps the coolest company. I tell people HP used to be like Apple and Google, and everything just wrapped up into one. It was the company to work for, but it became just kind of like Acme Computers, and I wasn't happy there. So I decided, let's go look for a new job somewhere. And there I was reminded that, wait a minute, I had always said I was going to go to law school. And in fact, I went to graduate business school instead. I'm still not sure why. Maybe I got in the wrong line or something. But we started looking at law school, and Vicky and the little boys were okay with it. We had to move away, but we did it. I tell people it was the greatest 3 years of my life. It was just fantastic. I remember studying for finals. I mean, it's law school, right? I remember studying for finals, and all of my friends in law school were in their 20s and going, "Man, this is killer. This is how can you even do this? It's so hard." I go, "What are you talking about? This is awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. We're learning new stuff. This is great." And I only have to work 40, 45 hours a week at school. With my job, I had been working 55 or 60 hours a week. This is like a vacation kind of, and we're learning anyhow. So that was fun. Came back to Idaho after law school and hung out my own shingle. People thought, "You're nuts. You're going to go straight out to doing all this stuff on your own." And I did. I kind of had felt like I'm not going to salute people anymore. I just didn't think I had it in me. I just needed to work for myself, I felt. And so I did for 8 years. I ran my own practice doing primarily divorce and a little bit of immigration, a little bit of criminal defense, but I really, really enjoyed it. And, I tell people I was 50 years old in law school. I celebrated my 50th birthday in law school. I had great concerns, gosh, am I going to be smart enough? Can I actually make my gray matter work to pass law, get through law school? And happy to report it worked. And and I made it through and began practicing here and had my own practice for 8 years. And then a friend of mine said, hey, would you come and work for me? And I agreed to. And today it's the 4-year anniversary today of me getting out of private practice and going and working as in-house.
Right on. Very cool. Vicky, I want to kind of jump in and hear about your growing up and formative years. So tell us about your family, where you grew up at, how you grew up at, and all the stuff.
I'm actually an Air Force brat. My dad was in the military in South Dakota where I was born. He had served in Honolulu, on the Air Force Base there. And he was stationed in South Dakota. That's where I was born. And then we went to Southern California. I went to kindergarten in Southern California. My parents decided it was too expensive and wanted to get out of the hustle and bustle of the big city, and so moved us to western Montana, to a town of 2,500 people, Hamilton. That's where I was raised, went to school. All my schooling was in Hamilton. When I graduated, I did a year at BYU Provo, and when I came back after that year, my family moved to Nampa. And I was serving in a church calling where your parents knew I was single and knew Joel was single and kind of arranged for us to meet. And so thank you to...
It was an arranged marriage.
This was an arranged marriage of sorts.
I will point out, I don't know that I have ever had a discussion with your dad, ever, that he hasn't brought that fact up, that he introduced me to Vicky. That is, I think, his crowning achievement in his life, is that he did that for me.
It is definitely one of them, for sure.
Very grateful. So we've known Kam.
Not only is it in your presence, but it's even if you're not around and someone brings up Joel or Vicky Tague, that he makes sure that...
You owe me a lot.
Yeah, you owe me a lot. I did a lot for you. Okay, so...
Yeah. So was living in Nampa, met Joel, kind of put school on the wayside because we got married and had children and were raising children. 3 children came with the package.
Yeah.
So that took all of our time. And so I just kind of put school on the back burner. Raised kids. I was a stay-at-home mom for years. I would volunteer in their schools and things and pick up little shifts here and there. Decided I just had this constant drive to continue my education. And so I went to Boise State for a year in 2007, did some generals and kind of got those out of the way. And then we had teenagers all of a sudden, and school got kind of put back on the back burner again. And so the kids were all in school all day. I was finding myself a little bored, so I decided to substitute teach and ended up substitute teaching in a special needs classroom and just loved it. And they asked me to come back for a week when one of their teachers was going to be out, and then offered me a job. And so I did that for 7 years. I worked with special needs kids, high functioning autism and Down syndrome. And we had a great work program with those kids where they worked in the community. And I loved it, but it's really physically hard, physically and emotionally hard. And so after 7 years, I decided I need to do something else. And Joel said, why don't you think about real estate? And so the next weekend, took real estate classes, got my license. So 2018, I became a real estate agent. I've loved that. Still felt that nag of, I need to be taking classes. I need to continue this education. I had about 40 credits was all. So in 2013, I had heard of this new program through BYU Idaho that was called the Pathway Program, and went to a meeting and went, okay, this is a good step back into education. Did that year of Pathway. It's 2, 4, 6 classes that you take. And then once you finish those classes, you matriculate into BYU Idaho.
Okay.
And I've been a student since 2013. I'm on the slow road. I just take 1 or 2 classes a semester, and I will graduate in July with my Bachelor of Science. And
awesome.
I'm really excited about it. And in all that time, raising kids, going to sporting events, traveling, working. I mean, at one point I was working full time at the school. My kids were all in school and at that school. I was working full time, practicing real estate. I had a really intense church assignment, and I was just busy. I look back and I go, and going to school. I don't know how I did it all, but I did it. And it helps to have really great kids that are just supportive and good kids.
She maybe should share your GPA.
And I have a 4.0.
Great job. No, honestly, that, and it is amazing how, and I think both of you guys articulated this well. Joel, you in law school, and Vicky, you going back to school. It's amazing when you're the one that wants to be there, right? When you're the one that wants to seek after learning, how much easier it is, right? And I noticed that, like, when I went back to graduate school, that a lot of people that I went to school with were younger than I was at the time, and they like thought that it was drudgery, like as though they were there because someone else wanted them to be there, whether it was their parents or, oh, hey, I'll get this promotion if I go get this advanced degree or whatever. But where I was there genuinely because I wanted to learn, and I felt like, hey, this is going to open more opportunities for me. And I think that both of you probably share a similar mindset. But when you're the one that wants to be there, that you learn so much more, and learning is not a drudgery. And I think that that's a great piece of advice and a great skill that I think that everyone should have or seek to develop, is that if you can learn to love learning, that can be a blessing to you throughout your life, because there's always going to be new things to learn. The world's always changing as things continue to innovate, to not be afraid of learning. And I think that a lot of people become afraid of learning, and that becomes a detriment and can hold them back in so many ways. And so I think you two are both excellent examples of that. And it shows in your actions. And I think that's a powerful example to give to your kids, because the world's going to be different. I mean, it's different now than it was 15, 20 years ago. It'll be different 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But not being afraid of learning, I think, is a powerful example. And I've taken that definitely from both of you guys. I do want to hear, as you've gone through these different phases of life, and, whether that's having older kids, having younger kids, balancing work and family and other responsibilities you may have in your life. One of the questions that got submitted to us in preparation for this was, how do you show up for your kids when you feel exhausted from all the other demands that you have in your life, right? Get up, go to work, all those other things that come on you. How do you still show up for your kids and your family when you're most exhausted? Maybe Joel, we'll start with you.
Yeah, let me start, because I am a good example, it feels like, of how not to do that, right? And I do think there are different stages in life. There was a younger, when all of the kids were younger, I don't know that I did that right at all. That, a lot of times it is, well, I can just tell them what's what, and they'll accept that because it's coming from me. I can't be here. I can't go to this game. I can't go to this thing with you, but it's okay because I'm doing this other thing that is more important. That was my mindset. As I have gotten older and maybe a little bit smarter, I go, that's probably not the right answer. And as they have, it's an easy crutch to fall back on, to think, well, I'm the adult here. They're the little children. They will just follow my guidance. And that's not the case. And you don't know about that until they get older.
Yeah.
Once they get older, and once I get older, and then I started seeing them more as peers, which I kind of do, all of the kids, I see them more as peers now than as me sort of being a parental figure and them being children. I kind of see them as peers, and I start treating them more like I do other people that aren't my kids. And I go, well, boy, what a concept there that I've learned, that I should value them and treat them as I would want to be treated, and as I would treat other people that I would interact with. Again, I don't know that I have figured that out, but it sure makes me feel like I'm closer to being on the right track when I do that. And even though things are hard, at work, somebody asks me to do something, I go, yeah, I'll do that because it's the right thing. At home, because things may be busy or hard, but if one of the kids needs something, yeah, I should do that because it's important and and it's what I should be doing. I understand that. I mean, the bottom line is, even though I don't know if I show it as well as I should, I love my kids completely. And um I don't even know if they know this, but there is nothing that I wouldn't do for them. But I hope I'm showing them that more today than I did yesterday, and more tomorrow than I did today. It's a path of constantly recognizing your shortcomings, shoring them up, trying to do better in the future. That's what I've tried to do. I guess I would have to talk with them and see.
No, I
if
love
actually
that
got
though,
that.
because I think that that's a great mindset to have, is that you're trying to constantly improve and get better. And I really love that concept of treating them as your equal or as your peer rather than this subordinate, which I think that it's really easy as kids go through phases, seasons of life change, and your kids are no longer 2 or 3 or 4 years old anymore. And you need to interact with them differently when they're teenagers than you did when they were really little. And you need to interact with them differently when they're adults and they're making their own decisions. And there's a lot of people that don't do that the right way. And so I think that's a great example. Vicky, what from you? I mean, you've had a number of different roles in life, sometimes even, I think being a stay-at-home mom is the most important job in the world. And people look at that sometimes and they're like, oh, they've got it so easy. But being a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job. And then obviously the other things that you've done as well. But what would you say that way? What were things that, a piece of advice that you would give to someone that feels exhausted, and how do I show up for my family after I've had a really long day?
That is a great question. I think I'm going to backtrack a little bit and say your marriage is really important. And we've been married 33 and a half years. It's been a great ride. It wasn't always easy. We had challenges with, just blending a family and working through that, but we've always put each other first. We try to date often. We like each other. I don't just love him. I really like him. Our Saturdays are spent doing really silly, mundane things sometimes, but we just like being together. And so I think when you nurture that, your kids see that. Your kids are also very important, but I think sometimes when you put your kids very, very first, they leave someday. They grow up and move out of your house someday, and you're left as a couple, and that's the most important relationship. So I wanted to give that advice, is nurture your marriage.
Yeah.
It is the most important relationship. With kids, I started with 3 stepkids, not my biological children, but I consider them every bit my children, and just always tried to put them first. I went to almost every game. I went out at midnight to buy poster board for kids that needed projects, and I just tried to be there. Was it perfect? No. Did we make all the right choices? Probably not. But I hope that our kids know that we did everything we knew how to do and did it to the best of our ability, and put them as the most important thing at the time, that we just showed them love. Now as they're adults, I think we have great relationships with our kids, all of them. And it's like Joel said, they're peers. They're really fun to be around. They make us laugh. We just like being around our kids. Were we tired? Heck yeah, we were tired. We were exhausted.
Yeah.
But just being a family is just such a blessing, even when it's really, really hard. It's just such a blessing. And we relied a lot on prayer. I'm not gonna say that we didn't.
Well, and that was going to be one of my next questions is the two of you, obviously your faith and religion and belief in God and relationship with Christ, how did that play a role in the decisions that you guys made with your family? And maybe start with you, Vicky, the things that you guys did and prioritized, and how trying to be close to God helped bring you closer to each other and closer to your family.
Yeah. Jesus is the most important thing in our life. And, Jesus, marriage, kids, that's kind of how we try and look at it. And tried to stay strong in our faith and have our kids go to church with us and be involved in our community and in our church community, and pray together as a family and read scriptures together as a family and try to teach our kids virtue and integrity and honesty and all the things that you want your kids to grow up to be as good people and good citizens. And we tried to serve. I think if our kids said, what were your parents really good at growing up? I think they would say that we serve. We cared about other people. We took meals to other people. We visited other people and took our kids with us and helped them prepare meals to take to other people. And so I think our kids think that we serve. And I think that's important.
Well, and being a parent, there's, an infinite number of obstacles and situations are going to come up that you don't know what the right decision to make is. And I think with that and in those times, and this is a place where I look up to you guys both a lot, that you're not going to know what to do. You don't know what the right decision is, and you're not going to have the wisdom to do it. And so relying on your relationship with God and relying on knowing that, okay, these kids were God's kids before they were mine, and I'm going to rely on him to help me to know what to do. And I'm sure that can take a ton of different forms. I know in my life it does, but maybe Joel, what are your thoughts on that and your relationship with Heavenly Father and Jesus and the role that that's played in helping you to be a better husband and father?
Yeah, I've always tried to be an example of Christ in my life. Have I done it? I don't know, but I certainly try to. I've tried to serve a lot and have found myself performing a lot of service, sometimes causing me to be absent from the family for periods of time, and that's always a struggle, that a balance. How do you do that and manage that? And I like, to me, it's the principles that we teach. Sometimes it's easy to get caught in the specific actions and get lost in those, but it's the principles that you teach. And as I look at all of our kids, I feel that all of them have adopted and demonstrate those same principles. Even though they might not do the exact same actions that I do, those principles are important to them, and I think they have learned those things that are most important to me. I think it's fantastic that they've done that, and I just again continue to, even today, serve. And I remember once taking one of our boys, and we took two of our boys, and we were serving. It was a Thanksgiving dinner at some place in Nampa, or at the rescue mission. We were serving Thanksgiving dinner to these people, and afterwards we got in the car, and I remember the two of the boys were there. And the reason I remember that is just a funny thing. I said, to them, thanks so much for coming and doing this with us. I hope you had a good time. And I remember one of my boys said, "What are you talking about? I was voluntold." It stuck in my mind that he was there. And we pushed that, but they are good kids, all of them, as a result of doing that.
And caring. And I remember the big kids. We were asked in our church to help a family out at Christmas. And so we told our kids that we were going to help a family at Christmas, and we took them to the mall, and the church had allotted us some money to spend on this family. And I remember being in front of a store, and we were kind of out of money. And every one of our kids reached into their wallets to pull out more money. And I've never forgotten that they saw that service as an important aspect, an important trait that they wanted to carry on. They all contributed their own money to that family. And it was a really special moment.
No, I love that. And well, you bring up Thanksgiving, you bring up Christmas. I think that part of building a family culture and family values and unity often comes through having traditions and having things that you do together as a family. You talked about going serving at the rescue mission or doing things to like help out families in need. Were there traditions or things that you guys did like that? I mean, I already named a couple of them. Were there things like that you guys did either on a regular basis, like on an annual basis, that you really felt like helped build the unity and kind of the culture of your family? Vicky, you start with you on this one.
Probably holidays. I mean, Christmas, we always try and do a fun Christmas Eve dinner with all the kids. And Thanksgiving, we have married kids now, and they're often splitting their time to free. You guys take a different form. So our opinion is, hey, I'm cooking. We're having whatever holiday it is. You're welcome to come, but please don't feel any pressure, because we don't ever want our kids to feel like they have to be pulled one way or the other. I know I've heard horror stories from parents that say, well, I'm really mad because it was our year and they're not coming. And we never want to make our kids feel that way.
Which I think is so great. And I think it was so powerful. I think that's such great advice to anyone, that I've seen that over and over and over again. And I'd love your take on that.
Don't put undue pressure on your kids. They've got enough.
Yeah.
Just
let them know that you love them and they're welcome.
Absolutely. We also tried to do like a fun annual vacation with our kids. Disneyland. We went with the Wheelers to Disneyland.
All kinds of stories that
we took 4 adults and how many children?
5, 6, 11.
11 children. All of us went to Disneyland. We still talk about it. Yeah. It was the most fun trip. So we just tried to do fun things with our kids, whether it was, hey, we're driving up in the mountains and walking through a creek, or we're going to go to the fair together, or we're going to go to California together, or whatever it was. Just try to do fun things with our kids.
Yeah. So, Joel, any other traditions or things you
one that's going to come this Sunday? We, at least in later years, we always tried to coordinate with our church's general conference, which is a broadcast on television, and we would very frequently have what we referred to as the big breakfast, and everybody would come, even if they really weren't paying attention to what was being said on the conference. They were paying attention to the bacon and sausage and pancakes.
That's like doing that.
And Prince Big Breakfast Sunday.
And we'll do that again on Sunday, and even this Sunday, we've talked with one of our sons last night. We were saying, hey, why don't you come?
Text saying everyone's welcome, of course.
Yeah.
But we just happened to run into him last night.
Yeah, no, I love that though. Just like having things that they know that they're welcome to, that there isn't a ton of pressure, and that they still have those frequent connections back with you guys. So I think that that's so important, being able to have them be back in your home, being around each other. I mean, there's some families I see or interact with, and like, I don't know, I haven't talked to my sibling or my parents in months or years or whatever, and keeping those connections and keeping them close. And I'm a firm believer that parenting is a job that's never done.
Never done.
And you're their parents forever, and you'll always have a role and an impact in their life. And I think that you've described really well about how that can evolve and change.
It probably bears saying as well, we don't always do things as a family. We will do individual activities with individual people, because they're
going different directions.
We have a.
Well, I think there's importance to doing both. As opposed to having individual time.
And they're all, and they can be so different. So my oldest son, oh wow, everybody wants to be around him, but because maybe of not necessarily the best reasons. He's the most fun person, but we've got
and I don't know where the gene came from. Actually, I think I know where it came from. But you guys did get the humor gene in your family, right? It's like anytime you're around, like it's always hilarious, and there's like laughter, and maybe even it's not even intended to be funny. Just a lot of the things that come out and are said, interactions are hilarious.
We have 4 kids, and it seems like
we have 4 kids.
No, we have 4 kids that should all be comedians. Two of the old kids and 2 of the young kids should be comedians, and then the other 2, one old and one young, just laugh at everything. Always, but they are funny guys. But we've got kids that have kids, grandkids, and for them, we like to go and do
We'll go
activities with the
game or baseball
yeah,
game
or whatever.
Our little grandkids, we've taken this year, instead of buying them presents, we took them to a breakfast or a lunch, and then they got to go pick a toy. So we try and do
others where we, my youngest son or youngest two, they want to eat, and so they don't want to go watch a flag football game or whatever. They just want to go buy me some food, or sushi would be good, or whatever.
Yeah.
So kind of tailoring it to individuals.
Well, and I think that meeting them where they're at is such an important thing as a parent, right? Because every kid's at a different place in their journey, and you guys have kind of a spectrum of ages with the older kids and the younger kids, and tailoring things to each one based on where they're at and what their needs are at that point in time. Because, like, as you said, I mean, your older kids have kids or wherever their particular circumstances are. Like, and so it's going to look different to each one of them, and being adaptable. And a lot of times, like, that's not a thing that a lot of us, I'll maybe even say that particularly men, we get really good at having a routine and doing a certain thing and becoming, elite at that one thing that we do all the time, and we're doing it for work or whatever. And then all of a sudden you have to be adaptable, right? And you have to start adapting to all these different circumstances. Like, I don't know anything about dance or doing hair or makeup or, these sorts of things. And you're kind of thrown into these different situations. Or I don't know anything about this thing that my kid's now into, but you know what? They're into it. And so it's going to be important to me. And I'll maybe share one example that I remember of this with you, particularly Joel, is I remember being in high school, and for those listening at home, their son Cameron and I were very close friends, like best of friends all growing up. He happened to land right in between my older brother Jared and I. So it was like the three of us were kind of like the three amigos running around all the time, getting into trouble on a rare occasion.
Innocent trouble.
But I remember that we had gotten into snowboarding and liked going snowboarding. We would invite Cameron to come with us. And I remember Cameron really liked it and wanted to get more involved in doing it. And so you took an interest in it, and you started researching, you started doing homework on it. You took him around to some different shops. You ended up buying him a snowboard and bindings and boots, like the whole setup and everything. And I remember you coming with us, and it was Jared and I and Cameron and you. We all went snowboarding together. And like, I think that was a powerful example. It's like, I don't think you'd ever been snowboarding in your life. This was a new thing, but because I think at the time he was probably 16, your 16-year-old son took an interest in it. You took an interest in it. And I think that's such a powerful lesson as a parent, that even if your kids like doing things that maybe you don't like doing or aren't, your favorite or something that you have an expertise in, that you learn to adapt and that you learn to cater to where they are and what they need. And as life circumstances change, that you're willing to be adaptable. And I think that's one thing that I admire a lot about both of you guys, and your way that you've shown up for your kids and whatever that has looked like at whatever time that needed to look like. So I admire that a lot about both of you guys.
It seems to have had an effect on, and I'm not sure it's positive, but the big joke around all of the Tague kids is that at some point or another, they all say, "Oh my gosh, I become just like Dad." my daughters say that about themselves. My sons say that about themselves. And so I, for right or wrong, good or bad, I've had an influence on them. And I like to think that there's something positive there. But I think an underlying theme is kids are paying attention. And so make sure that what they pick up is what you want them to pick up.
Yeah.
Because they will pick it up. They will become like you. Hopefully you're modeling something that they can become or should become.
Yeah. No, I love that. So you guys were given kind of a non-traditional circumstance, right? No one, as we talked before, and I say this all the time, having been through it, no one ever writes the story of their life and says, I'm going to go through a divorce, or I'm going to have what I'll call a non-traditional family circumstance. And having kids split time with being away, statistically now, most people are going to go through a divorce at some point in their life. And so I think that this is a reality that a lot of people are facing that they didn't know that they ever would face. What would be pieces of advice that you guys would give to someone like that based on your unique perspectives, Joel, having gone through it, and then Vicky, then, coming in on the other side of that, looking back,
Sure.
When you were going through that, what would be a piece of advice that you would give to someone, or pieces of advice you'd give to someone going through that situation?
Well, it was pretty devastating for me, the idea of being divorced. It couldn't have been farther away from what I thought was my life was going to look like. And there was a while that it was a pretty dark time, and I really couldn't see a path through to the other side. I just thought, well, this is it. I just am going to curl up in a corner and be there for the next 50 years. And
then I came up.
And then your dad introduced that. No, but I did realize that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I mentioned that I was an attorney as well, and for 8 years primarily did divorces and saw lots and lots of divorces occur. And that was one of the messages that I got to share with people, is that there is a way through this. It's going to be different. It'll be different than what you thought, but it might be way better, right? And I would say the overwhelming majority of the divorces that I worked with, as well as certainly my personal experience, is it got better. Now, did it get better because divorce is a good thing? No, but I think the people going through it that I worked with, and certainly what I hoped to do, is I wanted to try hard, and it became really front and center. I think sometimes when you just, grow up, graduate high school, go to college, get married, have kids, sometimes it's a kind of sleepwalk and just go through it. When you have a wake-up call like, oh, I just went through a divorce, now I've got to be very deliberate about the things that I'm thinking and doing and saying, and for whatever reason, but you need to be very deliberate about it, that it causes you to focus more on some of those things. And I think the people that have gone through divorce tend to view things a little bit differently like that. I mean, those there's an opportunity to do that. And so in my case, and this sounds horrible, but I am so glad about all of the things I've had to go through, because it's put me here where I am right now. I get to be married to my best friend. I get to, every day, every weekend, we get to go and do goofy stuff together and just hang out with her and know that she's watching out for me, and that I get to watch out for her, and that we've got 6 fantastic kids. I probably would have only had 3 fantastic kids had I not gone through a divorce, but we've got 6 fantastic kids. So there is light on the end, at the end of the tunnel. And I think if you're just deliberate and intentional about the choices you make, you'll find them.
So I love one of the things that you said right there about being intentional and about focusing on your kids and really making sure that you're showing up in the best way that you can. I think that it can just be part of the human experience, that when things are kind of going easy, or things are going the way that maybe you think they're supposed to, that we tend to check out a little bit. We tend to not be as intentional or deliberate or focused on those things that are most important. And sometimes going through difficult things help us to do that. I also loved what you said about finding the silver lining in bad things, right? Like, there's the old proverb about this Chinese farmer who has all these bad things happen to him, and the townspeople would come to him after each one of these bad things happened, like, oh, the storm came in and ruined all your crops. Like, what a terrible thing. Well, possibly. Well, the fact that it ruined my crops gave me an opportunity to be able to go catch these horses, and now, like, I have this new opportunity here with training horses and doing these things, and then the gate breaks and the horses run away, and it's like, well, what a terrible thing. And isn't this so bad? And he says, well, maybe. And then, comes to find out that, something else bad could have happened. And, his son ended up falling and breaking his arm, and what a terrible thing. And then there's a war, and the son ends up not getting sent to war because he has his broken arm, and just things like that. And I think the lesson in the story is that bad things are going to happen to everyone. And the way that you choose to view it and the way that you choose to respond to it becomes the reality that you get to create for yourself. And rather than taking a victim's mindset, a victim's mentality, and saying my life's going to be terrible, nothing else is ever going to be good again, to say, you know what, like my life can still be beautiful, my life can still be amazing. It may look differently than I thought it was going to look, and that's okay. And look at all these huge blessings that have come into my life as a result of this difficulty, right? Whether that's divorce or death or other, things people go through, health challenges, a loss of a parent or a sibling or something like that. Like all of these challenges create new opportunities for finding happiness or finding something else that is maybe different than our plan was, but certainly turns out to be even more beautiful in the end. So Vicky, from your perspective as being someone that, I'm sure this wasn't the way that you thought of your script as being a little girl, but kind of talk about what went through your mind and what were the things that you learned and grew and adapted and ended up.
I was an instant parent the day we got married, and even before we our dates included the kids. Not the first couple of dates.
Yeah.
He wanted me to get to know him, but our dates included kids, and sometimes it was just us together going to a park or out to eat or whatever it was. But so I was an instant parent. I never tried to replace their mom. I considered myself maybe a bonus mom.
Yeah. And I love that term, by the way.
They never called me mom. I never expected them to call me mom. They still don't call me mom, and
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. They are my kids, and I love them more than anything, but I don't need to replace anybody. I just need to be supportive and there when they need me, and I try not to offer advice unless they ask for it. I just think don't try to replace someone. That's not going to work out very well.
Yeah.
Just love them for who they are, where they are, and just be good to them.
Yeah. Well, and kids are going to have different kinds of needs at different points in their life, and being there for them, whether that was, when we were 15 or 16 or 17 coming over for peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and raiding the Oreos, at your guys' house after school as teenagers, or as you get older and people's needs look differently at times. I think that's such a powerful piece of advice as a parent, to just be there.
Just be there.
Just be there. Just love them.
Without judgment.
Yeah.
It's easy to pick out things you don't like about anyone in any relationship. We try very hard not to do that, and just be complimentary of the kids, be supportive, text right back if they need something. I'm the fun grandma that goes and stays overnight with the grandkids and does fun things. And I hope our kids know, I think they know, they can ask for anything at any time for any reason, and they'll get it, because that's what parents do.
Yeah.
Vicky has been fantastic in that regard. I mean, with the three little boys, it's easy and natural, and they are 100%, or she is their mom, right? And that's what they know. And she has that traditional mom-child relationship with them. But I even think for the older kids, it's a different role, but I think they all have just a wonderful relationship with her. She talks or texts with the girls daily, and with our son, he lives a little bit away, but we talk to him on speakerphone once a week anyhow, and laugh, but I think they have all at various times and in various ways complimented her on what she has done with them and for them, and that they are, as they grow and can start to insert themselves into what it would have been like, they've all said, I'm blown away that she was able to do what she did.
Yeah.
That they recognize that and have remained close with her through all of this time, and it's probably a stronger relationship now than it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I think even when your kids are older and they don't live with you anymore, you still have to nurture those relationships. You're never done being a parent, like you said. You're never done.
One of the things I like to think of, the mental gymnastics that I go through, is I think about, pick the time, 200 years from now. Let me see, I will be about 265 years old, and my kids will be 235 years old. How am I going to relate to them, my 235-year-old kid? Obviously, I'm being facetious,
Yeah.
but that age difference and that position relevance goes away. All of a sudden, they're just other people. And how do you relate to them, and what do you share with them, and how do you think about them? I think that's been something that we've talked about over the years, is how we view these kids. Is they may be senior to us, maybe not in years, but in experience and in thought and in intellect and such. And we need to be aware of that.
Yeah. No, I love it. Obviously, we call this the 1% podcast for a few different reasons. Number one, my intent in wanting to put this together was I want to interview people that I view as top 1% in whatever it is they do. And I certainly consider you guys that way as far as parents and role models and influences in my life. And also that belief, and you guys both hit on it, that belief of just getting better today than you were yesterday and better tomorrow than you were today. And those little pieces of progress that over days and weeks and months and years just compound into creating something beautiful, right? Like, even if you're not good at something today, a little bit of progress. And I love, like, Vicky, even like your story of going back to school. That's like, okay, I don't have to go finish this in a year. I don't feel obligated. I have to have this done in a year, 18 months, or some sort of arbitrary timeline. But I'm just making progress, and I'm just making steps. Joel, you alluded to this several times of, hey, I want to be more Christ-like today than I was yesterday, and hopefully tomorrow I'm even better than I was today. Maybe share some practical things that you guys do in your life, whether it's reading or listening to podcasts or, steps or things that you guys can think of that either as the kids were growing up as parents, or that you're, still kind of doing currently, or things that you try to do with them to constantly becoming better and in fostering and building those relationships both with each other and with your kids.
Well, there are some nuts and bolts kinds of things that I think we did. We ate dinner together. I think we did it
every night,
always,
which is huge.
Yeah, and we prayed as a family, and in later years we read scriptures as a family all the time. We still try to do those things. The family is much smaller, but we try to do those things. We are our faith has always been very front and center with us. We don't hide from it. We don't, we pray before we eat. We pray before we go to bed. We attend meetings. We take church responsibilities that we have seriously, and acknowledge when we have Christmas and Easter. We acknowledge why those holidays exist and what it is that we're celebrating, as opposed to Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and things like that. So I think it's just, they're nuts and bolts, they're basics, but I think they've sort of formed a structure that we could hang a lot of other things.
And I really don't think that can be overstated. Maybe Vicky, if you don't mind kind of elaborating on that as well. And I mean, making dinner for a family every single night is no small task.
Cooking, I'm not gonna lie. After 33 years, I'm really tired of cooking. We go out a lot.
Yeah.
No, we really did try to. I grew up having dinner with my family every single night, and that was important to us. Now, we had kids that were involved in sports, and so it maybe wasn't every night.
Yeah. Pretty close to it. I mean, anytime I was at your guys' house,
we had dinner together and prayed together, and read to our kids when they were little and did all those, traditional kinds of things that you do in a family.
Yeah.
One thing I'm going to say that's maybe a little different than what Joel says is being willing to be humble a little bit. Not everything we did was perfect, and not everything I continue to do is perfect with regard to the kids. But I've learned to step back, look at it through their eyes, and be willing to apologize and repair what's been broken. Whether I feel like it was my fault or not,
Yeah.
my relationships with my children, all of them, are incredibly important to me, like any parent. But when they're stepchildren, they are very fragile. And I work very hard to nurture those relationships with my stepchildren because they are my kids. And so I just think a little humility can go a long way sometimes. We parents don't always make the right choice or do it exactly the right way in what they are feeling or they are experiencing. And so having an understanding and caring heart can really help in nurturing those relationships.
No, I love that. Last question for you guys. If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, all of you kind of fill in the blank of what that younger self age is. But if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self or to someone today in similar circumstance, what would that piece of advice be? Maybe Joel, we'll start with you.
And I got to be careful because it would almost make me cry. There's another podcast, no offense, that I have watched from time to time. It's Sam. Who's that Sam that goes around to restaurants and things? Sam Reed. It's not that podcast.
I'm a fan of a lot of podcasts, so that's why I did one.
His is a silly one, but he ends with one statement, and he actually has it on the wall, and you're just kind of laughing. And then he says, he looks at the camera very seriously and says, "Just remember, even when you don't think so, or something like that. Even if it doesn't seem like it, it's going to be all right." And that's kind of what I have lived by. There is a point in my life that I learned it was going to be all right. And I remind myself of that, and I would like to I wish I knew that earlier, that it's going to be all right. And I would love to tell anybody that is listening, it's going to be all right. All you have to do is just put in just a little bit of effort, and it's going to be all right. You don't know what that means, what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, but it's going to be all right.
Love that.
That's a big question. I would say I agree. It's going to be all right, even when it feels like it's not. I would say put your faith first, your marriage second, and then your kids, and it's going to be all right.
Love that. Great wisdom. You guys are awesome. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Love getting to visit with you guys. I even learned some things that I didn't know today. I didn't know several of your points of your growing up years, Vicky. I wasn't aware of that, and all the moves that you'd made. I know you lived in Southern California for a time. But yeah, love your insights and appreciate you guys being here with us today and sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.